Radhe Radhe everybody. I had somebody ask me to do a review on this book, Nitya Yoga by Vanamali Ma. I just looked in Amazon, the link that I used to purchase this book. It says currently unavailable. And even when I did purchase, Amazon did not ship this. It said directly shipped by the the seller in that Amazon storefront. So now it says currently unavailable. I looked everywhere for this book. This is not available anywhere before I began. I'm going to email Aryan Books International right here. It says aryanbooks.com, and I'm thinking they are the ones that printed and distributed this. aryanbooks@gmail.com. I'm going to email them because I don't think this is in circulation anymore, or there were limited copies printed, whatever the thing was. And in rupees, it says 495 rupees. Whereas I think I paid a little, I mean, if you convert and stuff, I think I paid $12 or $15. I don't remember. Well, whatever it is, it's not about that at all. This book is amazing. Now, I'm here just to tell you that I may not be able to review this book at all, not anytime soon, because there are types of books that you finish in one sitting. Designed and printed in India by ABI Printing and Publishing, published by Aryan Books International. If you are all watching this and you want this book, please email to aryanbooks@gmail.com and say that we need more copies of this book. This book is amazing. I mean, if you're looking for me to review this book, it's not happening because I'm at a loss of words to tell you how wonderful this book is. And there's no need for me to review this. There's nobody that needs to review this at all. That's how I feel. It's my actual feeling. Now, if I have to tell you why I wouldn't review anything before I read any book fully, is that you can review a book only when you have gotten into all parts of the book, and then there are certain aspects of any book you would discuss. And if it's a work of fiction, yes, you can sit and read it in one sitting because there are plot twists. There's a beginning and an end, and usually there's climax and whatnot. But this is not that kind of book, and so it will not be done in one sitting. And the deeper the message of the book, the slower your reading gets. Number one, because you are taking parts of it and digesting it. It hits you in a certain way that you just close the book and start contemplating. This is that kind of a book. Now, what is this book? I already told you it doesn't discuss any verse in particular. These are just plain essays on different chapters all chapters of Gita. And if you look at the content page first, it just goes with an introduction, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya, Karma, Jnana, Karma, Sannyasa, and all that. So, all the chapters have been discussed. All the 18 chapters. And then there's a summary. Now, if I had to show you glimpses of what this contains, that's not equal to a review, but I have only gotten up to Sankhya, up to this page, and I'm just blown away by just the beauty of the language. And the very moment you start reading this, you know who this person is. You just get to know who this person is, because this does not come from anything in the world, in my opinion. So I thought I'll just read some of these. I mean, every word in this book until now, every word is highlight worthy, is contemplation worthy. I felt like I'm just not able to pick anything that I think is important and enjoyable, or there are no words. This is beautifully written. I mean, that's just shallow to just say that, but I thought there are certain things that I thought I will just highlight and read for you to understand what I'm talking about, or what I'm saying I'm unable to talk about. So she starts off with an introduction to Gita, and for someone that has read Gita, like myself, and many others would have read Gita, even for them this introduction would be just mind blowing, in my opinion. This introduction is probably meant to those that haven't read Gita, but this doesn't seem like that. This introduction is just out of the world. Now, one part of it says the history of religion has been a history of fanatic clinging of the human mind upon one or other of many creeds to the exclusion of all others. Thus, religion, which should have been a unifying force, became a force for dissension and hatred. All scriptures and all religions are after the same truth. Truth is one and eternal. I'm going to read the whole paragraph. The human mind, from the dawn of civilization, has been seeking for it through many different channels. So, how does the disparity between religions arise? The fact is that this truth, though one and eternal, expresses itself in time and through the mind of man. And that's why there are so many differences. Each person or each religion says mine alone is true and yours is not. So every scripture must contain two elements, one temporary and perishable, the other eternal and imperishable, and applicable to all ages and countries. Even though the Bhagavad Gita has a temporal and local setting, its spirit is so profound and universal that its message has been appreciated by all humanity through the ages. I'm going to the highlighted part now. It is given as an episode in the epic history of the country called Bharata or India, and arises out of a critical moment in the life of one of the leading personages in that episode. It represents not only all the facets of Hinduism but of religion in its universality without limit of time and space. It is both metaphysics and ethics, and the practical application of both in the world. True spirituality is never cut off from life. The transcendent and the empirical are closely connected. The opening chapter of the Gita raises this important question of how we can live in the spirit and continue to act in the world. She just touched upon the crux of Gita in a way that nobody, at least, I mean, I haven't read many books about Gita. I've read books on, like, I have read commentaries of Gita. I've read a very few books about Gita. I should say that, but still, this is the kind of introduction that I haven't seen anywhere to be put in words like that. Because why Gita is so different and why Gita has stood the test of time is just that. Because it does not tell you to leave something in order to be spiritual. It just gives you a method to be spiritual just where you are, and that's the beauty of spirituality, that it shouldn't tell you to just leave everything and just go to a corner and meditate. It doesn't do that. True spirituality is never cut off from life, and that's what Bhagavad Gita is so nice about, that it shows you where to put spirituality in practice in just your everyday life. That's what she is trying to say here in much more beautiful way than what I was babbling about. So the opening chapter of the Gita raises this important question of how we can live in the spirit and continue to act in the world. It is only the scripture which tells that we are completely responsible for our lives, and therefore we should take control of our life and act to the best of our ability. Usually there would be a tendency to say, oh, you cannot do anything, it's not you, it's God, things like that. But in Gita, the approach is so different that given the facets or given the outline of dharma, while staying within dharma, you have every power to control your life, is what Gita tells you. The only prerequisite there is to stay within dharma. Choose dharma as opposed to adharma. And then I'm going to read this. Through the intricate web and often bizarre design of our individual existence, this purpose is steadfastly adhered to, even though we may not be aware of it. Very often, before we become the egoless and imperfect instrument, we have to pass through a cleansing period of inner evolution, which has to be brought about by an outer and sometimes physical revolution. Now, she says, inscrutable are the ways of God. The cosmic purpose is simple and single pointed. It aims at total annihilation of the individual ego in order to attain unity with the Supreme. So somehow, you know how nature keeps correcting the path of everything in existence. Now, nothing can go outside of nature. It has to be inside of nature. Nature would just constantly keep correcting things and bring it under its control. So that's one way God acts through. The God, of course, nature is God's own power. So God's purpose or cosmic purpose is just to to completely destroy our ego and attain unity with him or her or with the Supreme. So that is happening through our individual existence. Even if we don't realize it, it keeps on happening. And for us to become completely egoless and become a perfect instrument in the hands of God, an inner evolution has to happen, a cleansing period. And she's laying the stage for the first chapter where that question arises. And that question that Arjuna poses comes in different forms in our personal lives. That's where we start to ask questions. Why are things this way? What is the reason there's so much suffering? And that has been the question that Buddha asked. Everybody has a question before a spiritual quest. So she's laying stage for that. And then she says that we go through a cleansing period, and that's a testing period for us. The more advanced the seeker, the more severe the tests he or she has to undergo. Fortunate indeed are those who are called upon to participate in the hastening of cosmic purpose. So the stab of pain is more often potent than the caress of love to goad the jiva towards its goal. So one lifetime or the other, the jivatma is usually almost forcefully brought to the cosmic purpose, which is the annihilation of the individual ego and attaining unity with the Supreme. So if the seeker is more advanced, the tests are going to be severe, and the tests would definitely lead the jiva towards the Paramatma. In this, there is only one thing which we have to remember, that life is a drama in which the eternal spirit manifests itself as the Atman in the human being in order to participate in the marathon race of its own pilgrimage to itself. I just cannot say anything about the beauty of these words. We have eternity at our disposal and immortality as our goal, and God himself as our one and only traveling companion. If you read these words again, think of Gita. We have eternity at our disposal and immortality as our goal, and God himself as our one and only traveling companion. To digest these words and to think of Gita, eternity at our disposal, there are so many chances. You go through the cycles of life and birth. So many times you do this until the cosmic purpose is attained. Each and every lifetime, each and every cycle that this Jivatma goes through is filled with lessons, filled with notes for the next adventure. I mean, if it's not looked at as a punishment, that another life is not looked at as a punishment. It would be looked at as an opportunity to get closer to God and attain that unity with Supreme. So we do have eternity at our disposal. But if once we look at second chapter about the concepts of the Deha being just a shirt worn by the Jivatma to continue its journey. And when he says Natvevaham Jatunasam Natvam Neme Janadipa Nachaiva Nam Bhavishyamaha Sarve Vayamataparam, these warriors, me, you, we've always been there. We'll always be. So we have eternity at our disposal. And what is our goal? Doing all this is just achieving that immortality, becoming one or unity with Supreme. And God Himself as our one and only traveling companion. When I break up that sentence, I think of Vishwarupa, where there is God and nothing else. Mataha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mahi sarvamidam proktam sutre maniganayava. There's nothing else. Kinchidasti. There's nothing, not even a little bit of something else other than God. So God Himself is our only one and only traveling companion in this eternal journey. When it's looked at like that, the message of Gita is a message of hope. And I was just flabbergasted reading these words and thought, it's unfortunate there are no more copies of this book. Just this introduction can do this to you. Then I can only imagine what at the end of these 18 chapters would give somebody. And that tells us that this person who has written the book Vanamalima is no ordinary human being. I mean, I've heard very less of her. I got introduced through Bhavesh's YouTube video. I've listened to her lectures, and this comes from in Gita's language, Astita Prajna. Somebody who is a Jivan Mukta, who's already done it, who's already transcended the dualities. Nevertheless, now I'm going to continue to read. The message of Gita is to make us understand that God is our only friend, sole relative, and perfect guide, ever present, ever ready to help us, nay, carry us if need be. The only condition is that we should choose Him with our own free will. Admit that the greatest aim in life is to find Him, to seek union with Him, and to become one with Him. Once that has been given top priority, the rest of the jigsaw puzzle of our lives will fall into place. This is where we have to break this up and just take it in pieces. The only condition is that we should choose Him with our own free will. Admit that the greatest aim in life is to find Him, to seek union with Him, and to become one with Him once that has been given top priority. It's not easy to give top priority to this purpose of finding God or be one with Him or just choose God in everything. It's not easy to do that because we have secular world, we have spiritual world. We've always thought of two things as being separate, and that to choose God while I'm watching a TV or dancing with friends and involved in banter seems like completely impossible to do. To invite God in all aspects of life and give top priority to Him when there are other things one can be doing is a lifelong effort, lifetime's long effort, in fact. So the more and more the message of Gita opens up, the less and less our decisions will be towards anything that takes us away from Him. And when she says the rest of the jigsaw puzzle of our lives will fall into place, there's so much that aligns once that even if somebody were to half-heartedly take that decision, नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायोन्न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. In Gita, Bhagwan himself in second chapter says, just choose it a little bit and the rest of it will be done. So this paragraph just opened up so much for me. And then she goes on, and then one more part that I really enjoyed, want to share. The Karma Yogi does not perform social service but impersonal service for the sake of God and as a continuous offering to Him who stands behind both humanity and society. It is not that the Gita decries humanity. The God-man of Gita does indeed have the highest ideals which we may expect any person to have, but he has these ideals not due to his humanity but due to his divinity. The Gita, like a loving mother, embraces all these ideals in her all-encompassing arms, and opens not just one door but also many doors of the life divine. All those who have the heart of an Arjuna can enter therein. No one is abandoned, none cast out. It is not meant for the Brahmin or the intellectual or for the initiates alone. The only condition for studying the Gospel of Gita is a burning desire to lead a spiritual life, a burning desire to know God and be one with Him. So, the way she has explained Karma Yoga, I just, man. So I have to read the paragraph before this that I enjoyed. It must be remembered that the action it urges is not human action, but action done for the divine and by the divine. Its ideal man is not emancipated social worker, but the God man who, having emptied himself of his ego, becomes merely an instrument in the hands of the divine for the upliftment and welfare of the world. If civilization is to have a future, it can be only through the production of such enlightened souls and not through the production of more nuclear weapons. So here she says, she just makes a very beautiful distinction of who a Karma Yogi is versus who is a philanthropist or a social service person. A person who serves the society is a little, by definition, is a little narrow than a karma yogi. Karma yoga basic foundation is for it to divinize the action. In Swami Vivekananda's words, your normal life being divinized is karma yoga. Your action that's ending up being divine is karma yoga. Otherwise, it's just karma and action. Social service also falls under that, even though it just caters to the society at large, and it's completely, of course, it's to something that is higher than just serving yourself. It still is not karma yoga yet because it hasn't become divine. How it would become divine is that it serves the society and humanity at large. If the action does not have that label of serving to one particular society, one particular group of people, even though they do need our services, let's just say somebody is serving the poor, very, very good, but with the intention of the entire humanity to flourish and completely emptied of ego and completely realizing that I am serving Lord alone, through Lord alone, and that there is absolutely no effort of mine in this. That's the challenge, and that's a success in becoming a karma yogi, that there's absolutely nothing that I'm doing. Everything is being done by him, for him, through him. That would be karma yoga, and she's brought that beautifully in these words. And there is much more that goes on, and I'm also going to read one more thing that I just thought is worth sharing here. In the present day, there is a tendency to subordinate the elements of knowledge and devotion on jnana and bhakti and assert that the Gita is only a gospel of action, since we find action or karma to be the recurring theme. Undoubtedly, this is so, but it must be kept in mind that the action of the Karma Yogi begins and ends in jnana or spiritual realization, and not in action as understood by the modern mind. The action of Karma Yogi is saturated with bhakti or love for the divine, a conscious surrender of one's actions, and very life into the hands of the divine. So there again goes that Karma Yoga's unique feature, how it differs from normal action, and that Gita is not a book of action. Actually, it's a book of love. It's book of bhakti. And some people may not like it, but that's what it is saturated with. If one um, reads it again and again, they'll just realize that it is a book of complete divine love and surrender, because the whole of 18th chapter is all about surrender, and surrender is love. And once action is surrendered, it becomes a divine action rather than just action. So Gita is just not a gospel of action alone, because the word karma keeps repeating in it, but a book of bhakti. I thought this was beautiful, and unfortunately, there will not be a review, like a classical review here on this book. I would probably just share like parts of this book as and when I go. This book is, I thought I should distribute this book, when I hit a certain number of subscribers or whatnot, but this is not in circulation. And if anybody wants this book, and you have looked everywhere and you're unable to get it, please email these people, aryanbooks@gmail.com. Maybe they could do something. They could print additional copies. Somebody who really wants to know Gita closely, have a beautiful and wonderful relationship with that message, will be benefited reading this book. And that's all there is to say. I hope you enjoyed this, whatever this is. This isn't a review, maybe a reading of Nitya Yoga. I hope you're all studying the Gita, enjoying the Gita and its messages. May Lord Krishna bless us all, and Radhe Radhe.